One second. I'm recording as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Good evening, friends. Welcome to the Mumbai Coin Society talk. And this is the fourth part of the four series talk that Dr. Shailendra Bhandare has given. This is the last one. Uh, a brief introduction of Dr. Shailendra Bhandare, although he needs no introduction. His first degree was in pharmacy. He started his academic career in the UK with a long stint at the British Museum. He's currently the senior assistant keeper at the Ashmolean Museum. He's a fellow at St. Cross College, University of Oxford. He has gained the reputation of being the foremost scholar of our generation in Indian numismatics. He's a walkie-talkie encyclopedia on Indian numismatics and Indian history. Above all, he is accessible to one and all to answer their questions on Indian numismatics. Today's talk is Contesting Authority, the Maratha Mint at Dharwad. We welcome you, Shailen, to our talk, and you can now go ahead. I request everybody to keep their videos and their audios off. I think everybody is off. Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm. So this is the final talk that I had promised the Mumbai Coin Society. And today we are going to talk about the Marathas. And a lot of the discussion that happens regarding Maratha coins is mainly to do with their attribution, mainly to do with what mints, were Maratha or whether they are Maratha or they are Maratha or not. Of course, one of the major focus of attention in Maratha coins is Shivaji and his coinage. But there are lots and lots of other interesting things that happen about Maratha coins. And we really don't know a lot about them. And one of the most interesting things that one can do with coins is to put them in context with other sources of history. The major thrust of Maratha history or historiography is based on reading of documents. And there's a long tradition of publishing documents in Maharashtra. It started in the late 19th century, mainly because the British were not allowing access to public records for scholars. So the scholars started searching for documents themselves with private families, with individual archives, etc. And they started building these collections and publishing them. And that's what starts the basis, the fundament of Maratha historiography. And in that respect, it is very unique in the entire pre-modern or modern Indian historiography. This particular endeavor is very unique, that people get inspired by this kind of, regional nationalism, as it were, and get inspired and they start collecting sources of their own history and then they publish it. So Maratha history is blessed with massive collections of published records and papers, which are of very, very disparate kinds. There are correspondences, there are agreements, all sorts of things happen. In trolling through these documents, one can sort of find information regarding coins. And this talk, I'm going to bring these two elements together to highlight a very interesting episode that happened in the middle, roughly the middle of 18th century. And it was focused on the mint at Dharwad, which is in northern Karnataka. So just to give you a context where these things are happening, this is a map. And it shows you, the red bracket shows where exactly Dharwad is placed, and Dharwad and Hubli, it's the sort of adjacent market town, are major market towns in north of India, north of Karnataka. And you can see from this map that they are located in between the field which is irrigated by two major rivers. So to the north is Krishna River, and to the south is Tungabhadra River. So this particular part of Karnataka is therefore regarded as known as the Krishna Tungabhadra Duaba, as in the middle of the two rivers. And this particular part has been really shifting boundaries for a long time, because either the Krishna or the Tungabhadra decides who actually rules them, this part from the north or from the south. So in the 15th century, when the Vijayanagar Empire was established, this sort of fought, this kind of created a kind of a buffer, a barrier between the Bahmanis on the north, of Gulbarga on the north, and the Vijayanagar chiefs on the south. And similarly, when it came to the 18th century, this became a real hotbed of contestation between the Marathas and Mysore, Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. So this part of territory has been really very one of these kind of contested parts, and also very very strategic, because you can see just to the west of the whole tract is Goa and a massive coastline. So it was a very important place for strategic movements of trades and goods as well. So, and also the third aspect about this is that it's a very fertile part of land. So it's, it yields a lot of agricultural revenue, for which there was a lot of competition between various political powers. So this part where Dharwad is located is important for a number of reasons in kind of historical perspective. So just to see a brief political history, as I said at the beginning, Dharwad is strategically located in the Krishna Tungabhadra Doaba between the two rivers. And its kind of earliest mentions as a flourishing market town have come around the Chalukya period. But it is really during the Vijayanagar period in 15th century where a local officer called Dhar Rao apparently is credited with building of a fort at Dharwad for the first time. And then in 16th century, the end of 16th century, about 1575, it was captured by Ali Adil Shah. You can imagine 1565 was the major battle between the 5 Deccani Sultanates and the Vijayanagar Empire, which happened at Rakshas Thagadi. And it was the site of the major defeat of Vijayanagar Empire by the combination of these, combine of these 5 Deccani Sultanates. And within 10 years, the area around Dharwad was captured by Ali Adil Shah I. And then it sort of remained virtually under Adil Shah control for a long time. In the middle of 17th century, around 1660, it was sort of attacked under the command of Netaji Palkar, who was a very eminent, well-known general of Shivaji's army. So the Marathas sort of make a foray into this part in the 1660s. And in just soon after that, the Adil Shahi Sultanate is sort of getting very weak, and it is becoming, so it has come more and more under the control of Nawab Abdul Karim Bahlul Khan, who later became the Nawab of Savanur. But in the 1670s, it was basically Abdul Karim Bahlul Khan who was ruling over these tracts. Then in another 10 years, in 1685, the Mughals conquer the place, and the Mughal troops under the command of Aurangzeb attack and conquer the Sultanate at Bijapur. So, and then from there, the portion around North Karnataka was conquered by Muazzam, who was the eldest son of Aurangzeb and the future Shah Alam Bahadur, the future emperor. And he was mainly responsible for conquering the area around North Karnataka and South Konkan for the Mughals. And then when Suba, a Mughal provincial province, was established at Bijapur, which was called Bijapur Karnataka, Dharwad becomes a provincial headquarter under the Mughals at this time under the Mughal Suba of Bijapur Karnataka. And then the Marathas then sort of appear in 1753 as part of their expansionistic activities. They are trying to sort of exact tributes from the Nawab of Savanur at this time. And as part of the Savanur campaign of early 1750s, the Marathas occupied Dharwad in 1753. And then there again sort of the kind of skirmishes between Marathas and Mysore then subsequently begin. So in 1764, for the first time, Hyder Ali occupies Dharwad, but then he's kind of booted out by the Peshwa Madhav Rao in the mid 1760s, and then again Dharwad carries on to be under Maratha control. But in 1778, Tipu Sultan reoccupies Dharwad. And this is a much longer Mysore occupation stint, because at that time, Tipu then increases his boundaries all the way up to the Krishna River. And it doesn't, this second spell of Mysore occupation does not end until 1791, when the Marathas then combine with the British and then launch a campaign against Tipu, then severely sort of limiting his territorial kingdoms. And when the Marathas recapture Dharwad in 1791, it is assigned to Parshuram Bhau Patwardhan, who was a major Maratha Sardar at that time. And then subsequently, in the next 20 odd years, the Patwardhans keep on appointing various officers as appointees to control Dharwad and its administration. So we have various Mamlatdars appointed between 1791 to 1818. And 1818 is the fateful year in which the British take over the entire Peshwa kingdom. And they appoint this character called Sinjan Thackeray, who's appointed a commissioner under a collector under Deccan Commissioner Chaplain. And he's then subsequently killed by the Rani of Kittur, the famous Rani of Kittur, Chennamma, in her rebellion in 1824. So this is a kind of 400 odd years of Dharwad history at this time. Numismatically, Dharwad can be placed quite interestingly between various these time periods as well. So as I said, it was a market town, and it was a doorway between the hill and the plains countries. So it sort of on the west there was Goa and the coastline, then the Western Ghats, and then on the plains this was one of the sort of major market towns that one sort of encounter when one comes up the Ghats, as it were. It was also part of, geographically, it was a part of, which was a kind of transition zone of currencies. So in this type, in this particular geographical part, it was traditionally southern in the numismatic terms, because it used to be a part of the Vijayanagar Empire, and it had the Vijayanagar southern currency of gold hones and fanams, etc., was traditionally circulating there. But as after the Mughals came into the picture, it started becoming northern, and it started sort of having its own rupees. So there's a kind of a North Indian currency system became apparent there, sort of. So you have two kinds of currency systems in circulation: hones and fanams of the southern tradition, as well as rupees and mohors and paisas of the northern tradition. During Aurangzeb's rule in about 1690s, about 5 or 6 years after the town was conquered by the Mughals, they started operating a mint here. And it was called Nasirabad on its coins. It was an Islamic name that was given to it under the Adil Shahis, actually. And we know coins in all three metals struck under the Mughal rule: gold, silver, and copper. And but after that, for a long time, after Aurangzeb's issues, the mint seems to have sort of stopped, because we don't know of any coins of any subsequent emperors that were struck in this part. Then the mint is kind of revived under the Marathas, and this is precisely the subject of this talk. But then after the Marathas go away from the political picture for a transient time, Tipu Sultan strikes coins there, and he sort of renames Dharwad into something called Khurshid Sawad, which means darkened by the sun. So it refers to the arid, parched landscape of the Deccan Plains. And he again institutes a trimetallic currency here, although only the gold and the copper is very well known. And quite interestingly, later on in the British period also, there are records that a mint was operating at Dharwad. But of course, we can't really identify its coins because there are no surviving coins known. I'll come back to that at the end of my talk. So this is an example of the Mughal coins of Nasirabad of Dharwad. On the top, you see that they are hones of the southern Indian system. So there is a hone and a half hone stuck in the name of Aurangzeb. And these are by far the earliest Mughal coins that were struck in the South Indian system were issued from Dharwad. So this is issued in regnal year 32, which roughly corresponds to about 1692-93. The Hons and half Hons, or Prataps as they were called, were the major sort of output of the Mughal mint here. Then you have a bunch of rupees, which are not really very common. They are quite scarce, I would say. And you have 2 or 3 variations on the theme. So, for example, on the left here, you see it's 33 again. You know, around the same time as the hone is struck, regnal year 33. And then you have regnal year 34, where the design slightly changes. The word manus is in the center on the reverse, and then subsequently regnal year 30 and the last design is known up until about regnal year 40, 42. There again, it's definitely different hands of workmanship at work. And of course, there is a very extremely rare copper coin, also known. This is Nasirabad paisa, which is a lightweight standard paisa, struck to about a 15 gram standard. And here again, it's the regnal year is 33. So it looks like around 32 or 33, the Mughals started the mint going in all three metals. The Tipu coins, some examples are given here. Initial coins of Tipu Sultan, these are 3 gold coins. The top 2 are Hons, or Bahaduri or Faruqi Hons, as they were called under Tipu. And the bottom one is a Fanam. The Fanam is extremely rare. We do not know of hardly, I would imagine, less than 10 specimens known of the Fanam of Dharwad. The Hons are relatively well known. And they occur in both names. The earlier issues have the mint name Dharwar, which you see here on the reverse below the Arabic letter Hay, which stands for Hyder, the symbol of Tipu's kingdom. And then to the right, this is a mint. The mint name is Khurshid Sawad, which was kind of a renamed mint name by Tipu. And there are these silver and copper examples. The silver examples are exceedingly rare, less than 5 pieces known, I would imagine. And again, like the gold coins, they also come in 2 variations. The one on the left here has the mint name Dharwar, and the one on the right has the mint name Khurshid Sawad. The copper coins, so far, we only know with the mint name Khurshid Sawad, and I've shown 2 examples here. One which is issued in the Mauludi year 1217, and one which is 1218. So this is the kind of numismatic picture on either end of the Maratha occupation. So before the Marathas, there were Mughals, and after the Marathas, they were the coins of Tipu Sultan. Before we actually go on to discuss the coins that were struck by the Peshwas in Dharwad, I shall say a few things about general characteristics of Maratha coins, which is quite significant because it gives you a kind of way of understanding things in a better perspective. The Maratha coinage typologically is a pseudo-Mughal coin. It's always, most of the Maratha coins are struck in the name of the Mughal emperor, although they are definitely not Mughal issues. They are Maratha issues, but they are struck in the name of the Mughal emperor. And therefore, they are typologically can be called as pseudo-Mughal. The right of coinage in that case nominally rested in the Mughal emperor. So, it was basically the Mughal emperor's authority that was carried over in terms of coinage by the Marathas. Sometimes this authority was delegated. They applied, for example, to the local Mughal officers or whatever. And sometimes, as soon as, when the Mughal authorities was basically only nominal, then it was kind of assumed as well. They did not bother about asking permissions. They started their own mints. It was basically a cycle of delegation and assumption. Sometimes people, when they were probed, when they were asked, oh, where did you start coins? Who gave you a permission? They did not know exactly who gave them the permission. They just sort of assumed and carried on, as it were. The issuance of Maratha coins was binary because it was issued from 2 kinds of mints. There were privately run mints, which were operated by a license, and there were state-run mints. The difference here is that in the state-run mints, the charges, the majority of the charges that were levied for making coins went to the state, and the expense of the mint, its raw material, its employees, all was also paid by the state treasury. And there was a second category, was a privately run mint, where a private individual could have a license for a specified number of times, make an advance to the government, and then try to earn profit by running the mint, as against that advance that he had made. So this was a kind of private licenseship kind of firm that were taking, and mainly we find the privately run mints were mainly responsible for supplying small coins like copper coins. There were more privately run mints producing copper coins than silver coins. But of course, there were silver coins. There were private mints producing silver coins as well. In terms of its circulation, the Maratha coinage was ternary. It operated on 3 levels really. So binary in issuance and ternary in circulation is kind of an interesting characteristic. The first level was the state, which actually sanctioned the operating of the mint or whatever. Then it was the license level. When the license was given, it specified what kind of coins were being made, how they should be made, what should be the purity, what should they have on them, how much will be the making charges, who are the employees, how are they going to be, are there going to be any soldiers for safeguarding, etc. All sorts of conditions are laid out in the license. But after these coins were manufactured in the mint, when they circulated actually in the market, then there was a third level of mediation, and that was done by shroffs and sahukars, who were actually rendering the coin circulatable, as it were, because they would assign a particular value to the coin depending on its condition, its physical condition, its purity, and then they would charge a commission. So there was kind of 3 levels of operation. The state was the kind of nominal level. At the level of sanction, the mint was the second level where the coins in terms of circulation and issue, and the shroffs and the sahukars, the bankers who were actually using the coins, so making them user friendly, as it were the third level of their circulation. The coinage was actually free, and that means that mints operated on demand for coins. Like if you have a kilo of silver and you want coins, you could just take that bullion to the mint and get it sort of converted into coins by paying a charge to the mint. So the moment there was demand for coins, the mint was supplying the demand that was arising. Therefore, mints were mainly responsible for running finances of local market towns like Dharwad, for example. And because the charges of striking coins, there was a kind of difference between the purity of the metal that was brought in and the metal that was going out in terms of making coins, plus the coining charges. That meant there was kind of disparity in them, and that was the profit that the mint operators could make. And it was, depending on how the demand was for coins, it could be really a profitable venture. We saw last time in the lecture about the East India Company's mint at Mumbai, that how actually making coins in Mumbai was profitable, and therefore everybody was trying to make coins in northern Konkan at that time, including Shivaji, who was operating his own mint at Raigad for that particular purpose, to make profit out of making coins. The coinage itself was very intimately linked to statecraft, and major state functions like collection of revenue, tributes, and other dues, whatever was coming from the population or from other people to the state, was actually paid in coins. And the state was actually paying other people through coins as well. So payment of troops and then other expenses that were sort of incurred by the state, which were in the documents, they're called muini and non-muini expenditure, the necessary and so-called non-necessary expenditure of state, which was all done in terms of coins. So the issue and circulation of coins was very much linked to the smooth functioning of the state and its machineries, as it were. There were, of course, as documents and coins themselves tell us, there were frequent occasions where there was fights. There was frequent sites of consternation between the two. So the main consternation was, coins were often struck in lower quality metal, or they were underweight. And then again, this goes back to the licensing conditions, that the person who was actually holding the license was not really maintaining the conditions, and he would try to make an extra little money out of his license by actually debasing the coins or issuing underweight coins. And therefore, in Marathi, when the charter is mentioned, the major condition that is laid out in the charter is that the mal, the goods that are coming out of that would be produced or manufactured in the tangsal or the mint, would be mal khara tol pura. This is the kind of phrase that they use all the time in these documents, that you are going to produce mal khara and tol pura. So the weight should be pura, complete, and the mal, the goods, should be khara, as in purity should be maintained. The other interesting use that sometimes the coins were used in sort of diverted into other uses. So people would get coins stuck to make jewelry, or then they would collect coins and make them into zari making. For example, zari making was a very profitable business at that time. For zari, you require the metal to be of a certain purity, and many times coins were diverted into other uses like zari making. So these are the kind of sites of dispute or consternations or conflicts that one sees appearing between the state and the circulators, the population that was actually using the coins. The mints, therefore, were mainly established to serve local consumption, wherever there was a market town, where there was a demand for these coins. And of course, it was also seen as a profitable business. So they were also established to run profit. So that was not something that was being shied for. So this is the kind of the backdrop that Maratha coinage has in terms of monetary history. This is not exactly numismatics of Maratha coins, but this is how people were using coins, how they were issued, how they circulated. Those are all the aspects that for which we have the kind of evidences coming from Maratha archives. So typical Maratha coins and the early Maratha coins, they do not have any symbols. They only have they're sort of copies of existing coins. So for example, we know that there was a mint established in Talegaon, which is between Lonavala and Pune, not very far from Pune to the west. And you can see that it's the top right coin here. In its appearance, the coin is very similar to the rupees of Surat. So the Surat was, the Surat rupees were the more widely accepted form of currency. So the mint at Talegaon actually produced rupees looking like Surat. And you have documentary evidence for this, because the charter given to the mint operator at Talegaon, the license order, clearly mentions that when you make coins, make them as copies of Surat rupees. So it is absolutely very clearly mentioned in the documents, and the coins are a testimony to that particular mention. So the early coins they look like any other Mughal coins, except that they have, kind of inferior calligraphy. They sometimes have small decorative elements. So for example, the flower that you see on the top right coin is copied directly from the Surat coins. Similarly, the bottom right coin is of a mint established by the Patwardhans at Miraj, which was called Murtazabad, and it has like little small decorative marks like leaves and dots and dashes and things like that. So they have a kind of a crude but yet interesting characteristic of their own. These are mainly coins issued around the middle of the 18th century. As we go towards the latter part of the 18th century, then you see much more symbolic variations coming on coins. You have unique Maratha symbols. You have flags, or or shivalingas or something, which are ankush. These are very much symbols attributed to a Maratha identity. So we come to the establishment of a Maratha mint at Dharwad, and we have documentary evidence in forms of lots of kinds of different papers. So the kind of papers that we have on hand are call-namas, which are agreements, sanad, which is charters or orders, and then there are patra, like letters, or again, orders issued as letters of various kinds. And I did say that collecting Maratha documents was an affair that started in the late 19th century. Gradually, at the very beginning of 20th century, the British government gave some permission for researchers to actually go into the archives and produce, publish material. And this was a very regulated affair. It was only limited to the very elite class. So you have to be a Rao Bahadur or Rao Sahib or someone like that. You have to be established as a middle class elite to actually have availed of this particular facility. And there was this particular Rao Bahadur called Ganesh Chimnaji Wad, GC Wad, who in 1907, 1908 produced a selection of 9 volumes for the first time, which was through the government's effort. So this was the first time that the actual government archives were given access to private scholars, as it were. And this is a whole long series called Selections from the Diaries of Satara Rajas and the Peshwas. So there are 9 volumes, and they are the very first ones, and a very interesting source of information. Quite nicely, the information that the documents that they reproduced in these books have been classified as political documents, trade documents, justice documents, whatever, commerce, all sorts of things. And one section in these diaries that they published is on mint and coinage. So you have all the documents related to mint and coinage sort of put together in one section. So we've seen that it was Balaji Bajirao, or Nana Sahib as it was called, who took charge of Dharwad from Prithvi Singh, who was an appointee of the Nawab of Savanur in 1753. So this is the time when Dharwad actually comes under the Maratha control. And very soon afterwards, in about early 1754, we find a Kolnama. This is a charter given, and it refers to the establishment of a market, which is a typically Marathi word called pate, which means a market kind of locality where trade can happen. And these were trade establishments which were kind of blessed by the government by calling an assembly of traders and other sort of related people, money lenders, all the people, all the population which is kind of associated with trade and commerce was brought together under a meeting. The leaders of that community were then identified, and they were sort of asked to establish this market town. And then they were the main reason for that was actually to generate revenue and start the trade going, keep the economy going. And these kind of these market establishments were chartered by the government to be established. And the permission to actually operate in this pate is given to a number of traders. And this is the document that is published by Mr. Ward in one of his selections from the diaries. In this document, we find that a person called Virat Shetty was given the license to operate a mint so that the market can have money to be used. So you have to have the money. The market has to be supplied with money. So for that, and the name tells us that this Virat Shetty, the appellation Shetty means that he was a sonar, a goldsmith by caste, or trader by caste, very much. And so this is where we have, and we have few more documents from 1754 down to about 1766. And we see that from the subsequent documents, we get the picture that when, Virat Shetty started his mint in 1754, but the currency situation had been rendered complicated. And this was complicated because the Peshwa's government discovered that there were lots of private mints in operation in the area around Dharwad. And that is the reason why when the revenues and the tributes were collected and brought to the provincial headquarters, which was Dharwad, and to sort of, add to the treasury and then eventually be remitted back to Pune, where the Peshwa's capital, there was a lot of commission that needed to be paid. So the Peshwas then sort of identified these mints and the coins as unauthorized or spurious. Now, this is a very interesting word, spurious. Now, what is spurious? That means kind of illegal, not exactly fake, but not really authorized as well. And because these coins were coming in lots of variations in terms of their metallic contents and kinds and whatever, it attracted a lot of discount and therefore impacted adversely on revenue collection, because all the revenue had to be discounted, whatever was collected in here. So this was the kind of dilemma that the Peshwas faced when they first started operating in this region. So what do they do? So as a remedy, Nana Sahib then orders the establishment of a central mint at Dharwad. This is where things start getting interesting. And then he says that we will have a single mint operating at Dharwad, and only the coins of this mint will be accepted in collection of government dues. So therefore, we will not, have required to pay bata or commissions to the money changers. We could just, the dues will be taken in a coin that was already declared as accepted by the government and kind of produced out of a government mint. So, it's kind of completes the whole circle of issuance and circulation And so the government can be assured that it's getting dues in something that it actually agrees to. It does not have to pay a discount over it. To operate this mint, we have another sanad or charter, which was given in 1760-61, just before the death of Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib died in middle of 1761 after hearing the news of the debacle at the Battle of Panipat, where the Marathas lost. So he died towards the middle of 1761. But just before he died in 1760, there is a sanad given to a person called Pandurang Murar. And he then was actually appointed as the license holder for a state-run, centralized state-run mint. The charter itself sets out all the conditions for what the state-run mint should be. So, for example, types of coins, what kind of coins are going to be struck there is already mentioned, and also the charges, whatever charges they are, pay for the staff, for example, and the artisans that are actually working in the mint, like the hammerers, the die engravers, whoever they were, these are artisans. They were all sort of mentioned in here. In spite of this, there's a second sanad given in 1765-66, about 6 years later. And from there, the content of this particular document, we see that the currency mismanagement is continuing. The whole idea of establishing a central mint is not really working by this time. And we know from the documents that there are 80 letters which are issued alongside this sanad to address matters. What were these 80 letters and who did they go to? We will see in a minute. But this is where the Peshwa is taking sort of a deep interest into this. And this is soon after the first Mysore incursion that happens at Dharwad. Later on, just a year or two later, in 1767-68, we know of one more sanad given. And this is not given to an individual. So for a fact, we know that the 1760 and the 1765 sanads were given to Pandurang Murar. Whereas the last sanad that we know of, 1768, was given to two artisans. One of them is a hammerer, is a die producer, and one of them is a die engraver. And both of them are goldsmiths by caste, and they actually complain of a local person appropriating their rights. So what they are saying, they complain saying, there is this guy called Subhaji Narsingh, and Subhaji Narsingh, he has no rights, whereas we, both of us, we are engaged in this business for a long time. We have family documents to show that we have the rights of producing coins at Dharwad, and therefore we should be given the contract, not this Subhaji Narsingh, this interloper that was preying on their rights. And they also accuse that this person is making spurious coins. Again, the word spurious comes in, and therefore, and the Peshwa's government agrees, and they says, okay, you can have the charter to make coins. Again, all these three charters mention the kinds of coins very in great detail, what exactly was going to be made. And of course, there are other things like mint charges were going to be 6 coins per 1,000 coins produced. So whatever coins they are producing, silver or copper, there were 6 coins would be kept as charges, 5 for the government and one coin for the licensee, whoever the licensee was. It's quite interesting to note that in 1767-68, when these two artisans apply, they also present a nazrana to the government, a gift kind of money of 501 rupees to actually get this license. So this actually shows casts a very interesting light on how these contracts were awarded. Actually taking bribe was legitimized in a way, in a strange way. So we know that these two artisans gave offered 500 rupees to the government to actually get their sanad onto their names. So this was the situation that we know from the documents, the series of documents that are published in the selections from Satara Raja's diaries published by Ganesh Chimnaji Ward. So what do the coins look like? So the coinage of Dharwad Mint, all sanads mention 3 kinds of coins. There is hons, gold coins, rupees, and mohors. And the inscription, the description of the coin says that hons should be of ekeri or ikkeri type, rupees should be like Arkat Fulchari, and mohors should be like Delhi Sikka. So these are the coins that they are mentioning. Sometimes you find ekeri, the word ekeri is misread as elori, and sometimes the researchers who are working on this are misled. They think that this is Ellora and not Ekkeri, which is Bednur, which is to the south of the region. So we can see clearly that here again, the northern and the southern numismatic traditions are at play. There are coins struck in both traditions. There are northern rupee mohor kind of style of coins and also southern hone type of coins. So this is again a very interesting aspect that happens here. And judging by the number of surviving specimens, we see that the northern system is more predominant because more rupees are known. The hones are not really known or identified with certainty, although I'll show you in a minute that there is one particular type of Ekkeri hones. Now, what are Ekkeri hones? The Ekkeri hones were produced by the Nayakas of Ekkeri. They have the figure of Shiva and Parvati on obverse, which is a kind of direct derivation from the Vijayanagar coin types. And on the reverse, it has the name of the Nayaka, which is Sadashiva Nayaka. So it says Shri Sadashiva on the back. And these were the predominantly accepted coins in northern Karnataka. And we see that even subsequently towards the end of 18th century and 19th century, the very same design was then carried over by Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, and also the kings of Mysore, which actually have the legend Shri Krishna Raja on the back, where Shri Sadashiva appears. So Sadashiva Nayaka was a 16th century Nayaka at Ekkeri or Bednur, and these were the coins that were struck by him in large quantities. They had gained acceptance of the people. So the Maratha said, okay, we will have hones struck to that kind of coins. So it should look like similar. Rupees are generally scarce and the mohors are absolutely exceedingly rare. I've only seen about 2 specimens by now. And we see that from documents that there are mentions of old and new Dharwadi hones. So there was a revision. There was some sort of, between these charters that were given, there was a revision of charges and the value of the coins that was being struck. So this was the Maratha picture of the coins. So these are the examples, and you can see that the top example here is, again, this is a complete guesswork, but I think this is the particular variety that was struck by the Marathas at Dharwad within the name of Sadashiva Nayaka, copying the designs of Ekkeri hones of Bednur. This is particularly because this is a variety that stands out. It has this kind of border against the depiction of Shiva and Parvati, and on the reverse, the inscription is very much in a kind of Marathi style of Devanagari script. The Shri, and it's not something similar which is that you see on the coins, the original coins of Sadashiva Nayaka. I'm going to show that to you in a minute. The lower coin is the very, very rare mohor that was struck at Dharwad by the Marathas. You can see that it is, in general, it looks very much like Delhi coin. So the mention that the Marathas had in the documents that it was the Delhi Sikka was to be copied. It's actually evident in these coins. And here you can see that the mint name on the reverse is Zarb Nasirabad Urf Dharwad. So it is written in 2 ways. This coin was published a long time ago in the Journal of Asiatic Society of Bengal Numismatic Supplement, long time ago, but nobody identified this as a Maratha coin. It's exceedingly rare, and it is struck in the name of Alamgir II. And the examples of rupees are here. So again, you can see that they are struck in the name of Alamgir II. The mint name is Nasirabad, and they are kind of 2 or 3 little variations on the theme. I'm just showing 2 examples with a very distinct, different hand at engraving the dies. So you can see that on the top coin, the figure of Sana is written in a different way than here. The word Nasirabad is written in a different way. So both coins definitely show a different hand of engraving dies. And as the charter said, these coins were supposed to have a purposeful resemblance with other coins, and that was to do with trust and acceptability. Whatever the coins were actually circulating, they said make our coins look like them, so therefore they would gain more acceptance. So here we see the 2 examples. The examples on the left are all Maratha issues. The examples on the right are their prototypes. So you can see that there is the Ekkeri hone, and you can see the difference of execution of characters, how the Shri is executed. Like on the original coins, it is more like a Sri. On Maratha coin, the possible Maratha issues, it is Shri. And again, the same sort of similarity, you can see that this is the Muhammad Shah Delhi Mint Mohor, Shahjahanabad, and you can see that the whole design is very faithfully copied. Similarly, the instructions to make the silver coins was to make them like Arcot Fulcherry rupees. Fulcherry is the southern version of the town of Pondicherry, and Pondicherry was a French coin. So basically, they are copying the French designs of Pondicherry. And you can see very clearly that the obverse depiction is, including the number of dots and the decorations, is very, very similar. So is the reverse, except that the French coin on the left has the crescent mark, and the Maratha coin on the right does not have the crescent mark. So these were the kind of mechanisms that the Marathas thought that they would put in place so that their coins would become more acceptable, and the mint would then gain popularity. So who are the persons who are actually doing these things for the Peshwa? And this is where the question of the 80 letters that were sent. So the Peshwa was very much concerned about the fact that the collections of revenues are getting impacted because of the circulation of lesser pure or lesser weighted coins. So the 80 letters are sent to these three groups of people. The first are the Kamavisdars, who are the Maratha appointees. And you have the names that are mentioned, Narayan Rao Venkatesh, Visaji Narayan, Anand Rao Bhikaji, Visaji Krishna, Shesho Narayan, Bhaskar Rao Dadaji. Then there is a chap called Girdhar Rao of Savanur, who was not a Maratha appointee, but someone in the vicinity who was of a neighboring kingdom. Maloji Ghorpade, Gopal Rao Govind, and Yesaji Ram. So these are all the Kamavisdars. These are actual Maratha state officials to whom these letters had been sent. The letters actually contained a threat saying that when you collect revenues, make sure that you collect the revenues only in the coins that are struck in Dharwad. Only the coins which were struck in the central mint at Dharwad would be acceptable. Make sure of that. So this is the kind of order that has gone to these Kamavisdars. Then there are zamindars of these local towns: Gadak, Kittur, Hubli, Khanapur, Jamkhandi, Yadwad, Gokak, Nargun, Mudkavi, Manoli, Torgal, Murgod, Chikkodi, Ramdur, Mudhol, Bagalkot, Watambari or Watkurki, the name is not certain, whatever it is, Shapur, Dharwad itself, and Navalgun and Athani. So these were all the local market towns where they were zamindars. And then there was the third group of people was the sahukars, the money changers, and the sort of money dealers of various market towns or pate. So there is Dharwad, Hubli, Betagiri, Navalgun, Nargun, Gadag, Lakshmishwar, Gokak, Kittur, Yadwad, Bagalkot, Manoli, Khanapur, Shahpur, Savanur, Haveri, Gomantak Bandar, Goa, Koppal, and Athani. So you can see that there is a kind of an overlap between the zamindars and the sahukars of this place. What this tells us in a nutshell is the area in which the Dharwadi rupees, the Dharwadi coins were supposed to be circulating. So this is the area populated by these towns is the area which is the kind of an economic domain of the mint at Dharwad. So this is what the government is trying to achieve, that in this particular area, only the Dharwadi rupee should be current. Then there is a list of mints. They identified the actual mints which are producing the so-called spurious coins. Now, they are not spurious in terms of fake coins, but these are the mints, and they are then ordered to shut down. So the second sanat of 1765-67, when the Peshwa's government is actually cracking the whip, is accompanied by letters to all the artisans which are actually running this mint, hammersmith, die engravers, and workmen from these mints, to stop their operations. So these are the mints that were functional at this time: Manoli, Lakshmishwar, Torgal, Athani, Shahapur, Gokak, Kittur, Yarwad, Murgod, Navalgun, Mudhol, Bagalkot, Jamkhandi, Watambari, Mutkavi, Ramadurg, Nargun, Savanur, Bankapur, Dharwad, and Chikkodi. So there was a mint at Dharwad also which was asked to shut down because the government mint should function. So this is really top-down kind of management that is coming in picture. And you can see that these are the examples of some of the coins which the charter mentions as spurious. Now that we know as coin collectors that these are not spurious coins. These are well-known coins. These have good silver. Everything is fine with them. Athani, Gokak, Bankapur, Narsinghpur, or Tarugal. These are the mints that are mentioned in the charter, and these must be the coins which are actually circulating at the time of when the charter was issued, and these mints were ordered to be shut down. So what is happening? So, obviously this is causing a little bit of a friction. The other example of what was called as spurious coins that was circulating in this area were supposedly these copies of Arkat rupees, which were struck by various zamindars or whoever, one of these kind of mints that was mentioned in the list. We can't attribute these coins, but we certainly know that they are imitations mainly of Muhammad Shah's Arkat coins, and they occur all over the Deccan. And it is quite likely that some of these might have been struck by the mints that we mentioned, because not all the mints we don't know coins of all the mints that are issued that are mentioned in that list that were actually functioning mints. But something like these, it's quite likely that what was referred to as spurious coins by the Peshwas. Now, what happens is quite interesting, is that we find that there is a hidden hand here. And the mints run in feudal domains, so basically, if you look at the mint names in the list and the Kamavisdars that are mentioned in a different list, you find that some of these Kamavisdars were actually behind running these mints. So Anandrao Bikaji Raste, for example, was running the mints at Bagalkot and Athni. Bhaskar Rao Dadaji Bhave, who was the king, the chief at Nargund and Ramdur, was running the mints there. Maloji Ghorpade was running the mint at Mudhol. Gopalrao Govind Patwardhan was running mints at Jamkhindi and Lakshmishwar. And of course, the Nawab of Savanur was running the mints at Savanur and Pankapur. And there were, of course, these other mints, Chikodi, Manoli, Kikturi, Yadwad, and Mudkavi, which were run by local zamindars. So you see immediately that there is a kind of conflict. You are assigning these people to stop the mints, but they are also running they are actually getting money from that mint. So there is a conflict of interest that is coming up. And this is the reason why the mints, the entire experiment of starting the central mint at Dharwad subsequently collapses, because we know that many of these mints actually run much longer beyond the Dharwad episode. The coins of Dharwad kind of end in about 6 or 7 years. The Maratha mint at Dharwad becomes dysfunctional. There are no other coins known after 1767 or 1770. There are no coins known in the name of Shah Alam II, for example. So the entire episode then sort of collapses, and some of the mints that were supposed to be stopped by the order of the Peshwas, we see from numismatic evidence that they carried on. They carried on for a long time. They carried on for 30, 40, 50 years after the entire thing was happening. So these are the few examples. There's a rupee of Bagalkot, Belgaon, Shahpur, Torgal, and Chikodi. These mints were supposed to be shut down by the Peshwas government, but they seem to have just carried on. So the reason behind this was because the operators of the mints had a vested interest in the running of the mints. They were actually getting profits, and they were making money literally making money out of running the mints. So unless they were compensated in any way, unless the Peshwa's government was saying, okay, you can stop, but we will give you a little bit of handouts, whatever your whatever loss that you incurred in closing down the mints, if we forfeit the loss, then maybe that would have been successful. But we have no indication of that. The Peshwa's government is ruling in a very top-down managerial fashion. They say, okay, just go and stop it. But these Kamavisdars and these zamindars, which are actually getting profits from these mints, they are not interested in doing that for obvious reasons. Not only the fact that some of the mints that were mentioned in the list carry on producing coins, there appear to be new mints in the region. So, for example, Hukeri, Nipani, and Sampgaon were not the mints that are mentioned in the list, but we find them, they were operating in subsequently. So the entire episode seems to be a kind of friction between the top-down management from the Peshwas, and at the level of Kamavisdars and Shroffs and Sahukars and bankers, a kind of a rebuck or rebuttal of the entire thing from bottoms up. So the top-down force of authority has been sort of met with the bottoms-up kind of revival of the coins. And this sort of thing carries on, and it's a kind of funny thing that there's a very worn old kind of statement that history repeats itself. This is an excellent example of history repeating itself, because when the British actually take over the province from Marathas in 1818, they see this exactly the same problem. So they say they can't pay the troops because of a huge variety of coins. So the entire episode of starting a centralized mint at Dharwad is not successful. The variety of the coins against which the Peshwa's government was going to work carries on. It just carries on. And it's there even in 1818 that the British are facing the similar problems. And St. John Thackeray, the commissioner, the collector that they appointed Dharwad, then starts operating mints at Belgaum and Bagalkot under British authority. And these are the two examples of the British coins that were struck in. They copy the Maratha designs faithfully, but only add the date in English numerals on it. So 1819 is added on to the Bagalkot coins, and 1821 is added to the Belgaum coins. The Belgaum mint was actually run at this time by Chintaman Rao Patwardhan of Sangli, who had a mint in Shahpur, which is the neighboring town of Belgaum. That mint is shut, but the British actually offer Chintaman Rao Patwardhan a compensation. So he's happy with shutting down the mint. Then the entire machinery and staff is brought over to Belgaum by Mr. Thackeray, and then he starts these 1821 coins in there. In the other mints that have been flourishing in the area, Kittur, Shahpur, Mudhol, and Nipani, etc., all of them are abolished at this. And then in 1823, we see this idea of establishing a central mint at Dharwad then again reappears. The British actually take the same idea from that the Peshwa had done 50 odd years ago, and they do the same thing. And they say, okay, we'll do it initially for a year, but we don't know exactly what happened, because the British papers at this time are not really they're silent on the evidence of how long this mint was run for. It was mainly to be producing pagodas or hones, but also some rupees, it seems. And the metal, particularly the gold, was to be brought in from Goa, which was Portuguese at that time, and it was going to be imported from Goa. So all these details are there in the British documents. We know that the mint appears to have been functional for a while, because in 1824, we have a record that 266,000 coins were actually struck in the mint at Dharwad. So 50 years on, the British actually redo what the Peshwa tries to achieve, but they try to redo it in a slightly better way by actually offering compensation to the people who were actually running the mints. So what causes the failure of the central mint experiment by the Peshwas? So there is this little diagram shows of the Peshwa. So the Peshwa sits at the top. The mint is actually regulated by Kamavisdars, Zamindars, and Shroffs and Saukars. And the Peshwa actually recognizes that these are the three groups which are important in running the show, as it were. Therefore, the letters that are issued to implement the Peshwa's order are targeted to these three groups of people. And this is where the Peshwa actually says that, okay, these are the people who are going to implement my orders. However, they all have their hands kind of, in the pockets of the mint. The mint is actually making profits, and all these three categories are actually benefiting out of the mint profit. So therefore, unless they were actually adequately compensated, the Peshwa was not going to get anywhere with this particular experiment. And this is the reason why the whole experiment of establishing a central mint at Dharwad then subsequently collapses. So to conclude, I would like to say, what does this entire thing tells us? So this is what I see as contesting authorities at work. So this is what is happening. The political authority of Peshwas is mediated through the Kamavisdars and the Zamindars. The economic authority is then mediated through Shroffs and Saukars, because they render the coins circulatable. They actually help the coins circulate. So there is an interplay of authority here. It's, the Kamavisdars get a part of licensing fees as feudal chiefs in the region, and the Shroffs and Saukars then help circulate what the Peshwas regard as spurious coins, what the coins that the Peshwas do not want in their treasury, but actually are bringing money to the Shroffs and Saukars because they can charge commissions. So that is the thing. So there is this kind of very interesting interplay of these two authorities, the political authority on one hand, and the economic authority on the other hand. The zamindars already have some sort of strained associations with the Peshwa because the Peshwa is trying to subvert their local authority. And also there is the whole idea of tradition at play here as well, because as we see from the documents, the artisans point to ancestral privileges. They say that, we have been running this mint since the days of the Mughals, and we have a privilege. So therefore, any other person who does not have that privilege should be, taken out of the equation. And they then reclaim these ancestral privileges they have. So the authority that each group of these people have is kind of, of a different sort: political, traditional, or ancestral, or anthropological, and also economic. So there'd be three interplays of authorities, then therefore sort of came together to ensure that this particular experiment of establishing a central mint of Dharwad then became unsuccessful. However, the effort was very well justified. The Peshwa seems to have got in his the idea that a single circulatory currency, a unified circulatory currency, will be beneficial for revenue collections. He seems to have got that idea very clearly. The only thing that he could not actually implement it because it was the contesting authorities at work. And this whole episode then therefore could be seen as a precursor of the eventual experiment that the British carried out in establishing a uniform currency. And the British also had a lot of problems, but by that time the political situation and the political apparatus around these functionalities had changed completely. Therefore, about 50 years or so, the British could actually establish a uniform currency in India, whereas the Peshwa's experiment that sort of happened in a sort of small microcosmic area was a total failure. So a very interesting story that one comes across about how coins circulate and what can they tell us about how authorities are mediated, who mediates authority, who has the final say, and what exactly happens. The whole story of the Peshwa's central mint establishment at Dharwad is a very good insight into all these aspects of monetary history. So this is where I would end. I would stop the screen share now. And I hope people who wanted to ask questions might have asked them in the chat box. And I will ask now Malcolm to take the questions one by one, and I'll try to answer them. But thanks ever so much for Mumbai Coin Society and all the attendees that have attended this series of lectures. We had a little bit of a poor show by somebody Zoom bombing one of the meetings, but it's all right. Things happen. It sort of adds color to all of our efforts. But I hope you all will keep safe and keep happy and keep working in these troubled times. So thanks ever so much again to the organizers and to the members of the Mumbai Coin Society. Thank you ever so much. Bye.
Thank you, Shailendra. It was an awesome talk. I was absolutely gobsmacked by those double rupees, one of Dharwad and the other of Khurshid Sawad. I'd never seen one.
They were single rupees, Malcolm. They were not double rupees, but that's all right.
Oh, they were single rupees. Okay.
Yeah, but even single rupees are very rare. So yeah.
Yes, but they were wonderful coins. Are they in museum collections? Hopefully.
Well, one of them, the Dharwad, is. I have taken the picture from the American Numismatic Society. So yes.
Okay, great.
So here we are. Do you want to go down the chat box?
Yes. So we have our first question from Ganesh Nine. Where Talegaon, Rajapur, Murtazabad, Muyyabad Mughal style were actually minted?
Well, they were minted in all these places: Talegaon, Rajapur, Murtazabad, and Muyyabad. So.
Okay. Moving to the next one. Are those spurious coins can be identified as Maratha coins? It's a private message, so.
I don't know about that. It's the thing is that there is no corroboration. The only corroboration we have is mainly because of the find spots. I mean, these Arcot like rupees are mainly found in the Deccan. So that is the only evidence that we have. We have no other evidence as to where exactly they are found or who exactly issued them. There are some of them which actually have symbols, and you can tell them that maybe some of them do or probably were in, issued. There are some symbols like a trident or whatever, which are like Maratha symbols, but we don't know, and we really don't know also. So there is no corroborating evidence, so we can't say for sure. But there is a large gap of 20, 30, 40 years where there are, we don't know what coins were circulating. And judging by the documents that are coming up in the 1750s or 1760s, which kind of retrospectively refer to these coins, so we can conjecturally say that they must be the coins. So it's not, it's not really very clear, but quite a good possibility.
Okay. Moving on to the next. Is there any probable EIC coin minted by British in 1824 AD?
No, we don't know. I mean, there's a record that they struck nearly 250,000 coins, but we don't know what they were. So we can't identify them.
Okay.
So
next one is, how would you assign mints to coins like Kitur, Sampegaon, etc.?
Completely conjectures. There is absolutely no evidence to that effect. There is the only possibility that one can sometimes find is, again, documentary evidence, which tells you sometimes actually describes the coins or actually has a picture of a coin. So unless something clearly, corroborative like that comes up, it's very difficult to say anything. I mean, we can make guessworks, and the guessworks are quite entertaining at times, but that's not, they're not conclusive.
Fair enough. The next question is, what do you think about Trishuli rupees with Arcot mint?
Well, again, this is what I think, that they are part of the same picture, because the Arcot rupee was so popular, and they, if you go back to the papers, you see that there are two kinds of Arcot rupees. There is Arcot Fulcheri, and there is something called Arcot Ganjikot. Now, Ganjikot is a different place, but why are they referring to the Arcot rupees as Arcot Ganjikot? We don't know. Possibly because they are referring to it as the Nawab's Arcot. So, because the Nawabs of Kadapa or Nawabs of Arcot were sort of kind of, maybe the word Ganjikot refers to that. So, here in case of Dharwad, we are very clear that they are actually asking to make Arcot Fulcheri rupees. So, Pondicherry. So, that's very clearly said. But we have not been able to identify what exactly are Arcot Ganjikot rupees. So that is one other category of Arcot that keeps on appearing again and again. So, again, it is all, we have to sort of join the dots and try to contextualize the coins in these dots. Then only we can know. But unless we actually find a clear corroboration, we can't say with 100% accuracy.
Okay. I think there is another comment. They have found coins of Kasba, Rahimatpur.
Yes, I mean, they are found. Mainly the Arcot, Trishul Arcot coins are really found in the northern Karnataka region, and that is what I think, that they're most likely, in my view, they are most likely issues of the Patvardhans, but God knows from which mint. So,
okay. And also there are a couple of suggestions or questions.
mm-hmm.
Awesome talk, like the three earlier ones. Can I humbly request you to take up a series of lectures on Mughal coins? Another one is...
Possibly in future, let's see.
And the other one is, so can you do a talk on Indo-French coinage?
Maybe again.
So. Fair enough. Yeah. And I think there's one last one.
Mm-hmm.
As you may say, many coins using silver coins to make jari and other things. That's why now many coins are missing or not found anymore.
No, I would not say that, because obviously coins were issued for circulation and that was their main purpose, but they were taken away for other things. That's a different matter, but that should not actually, the economic remit of these other activities was much smaller than the economic remit of circulation. So the reason why these two activities will not impinge or affect each other was because they would cause, I mean, like the main complaints that we get for gerrymaking is, for example, is that we are facing a shortage of coins. So in a little market town where there is a supply of money coming up, if you suddenly divert parts of that money towards some other purpose, not using it as money, then of course the whole thing gets a bit destabilized. So that is the kind of complaints that we see. It does not actually affect a larger scale enterprise as such.
I have a question. So you were saying that in this particular region, there was influence of both North and South. So how did what was the currency exchange between a pagoda and a mohar and a rupee and a...
We have very good information on that from the papers. Again, some of the papers which I mentioned do give you exact exchange rates. So for example, we know that, I mentioned that there are evidences to suggest that there were old Dharwadi hones and new Dharwadi hones.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a revision. So we see that the old Dharwadi hones are charged at 4.5 rupees exchange rate, whereas the new Dharwadi hones are charged at 4.25 rupee. So obviously the newer coins were more expensive. They were treated with more respect than the older coins. The older coins got more rupees.
Okay. And in respect to mohar and hon, what would be the exchange rate?
Oh, it was varying between 3.5 to 4.5.
Okay.
Sorry. So did you say mohar and rupees or mohar and hons?
Mohar and hons. Hon.
Mohar and hons. The hon was actually roughly one third of the mohar.
Okay. So it conformed to that standard. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all with the questions.
All
so on behalf of the Mumbai Coin Society, I'd like to thank you once again, Shailendra, for doing these talks. It's helped a lot of people with new knowledge. Many people have got to see some fantastic coins. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And yeah, and to the viewers, we'll see you next week. Mr. Girish is doing a talk on 2,500 years of Indian numismatics. So
very good.
See you all
and
then.
Maybe later in October or September, maybe in a couple of months, I might be back with a couple of talks. Let's see. Let me see how it goes. Yeah. So, all right.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks ever so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.